Hello, everyone, and welcome to my first excursion into the YouTube experience. I've never made a video for YouTube before, and this is going to be fun and interesting. I'm going to try to make it as such. For those of you who don't know, my name is Leland Walters Jr., and those of you watching this video who know me are aware of my interests and the things that I love to do and love to talk about. For those of you who don't, I'll give you a quick explanation. I grew up with a love for many things in my life, but what stood out the most for me was history and government, particularly American history. Now, we're all aware that for the last 20 to 25 years, our country has steadily gone downhill due to partisan politics, among other things. I feel that partisan politics is the root of this problem, and that combined with the public's gross lack of knowledge about what our government is and is not allowed to do. Before we go any further, I need to explain where I lie on the political spectrum. I was raised in the South, obviously, as you can see behind me. I'm a proud Southerner, and I have a deep love for our heritage. And any of you who think the flag behind me is racist need a history lesson. My parents were born in the 1940s and raised during an era where discrimination was commonplace. I was raised in a conservative home, but I was raised on the principles that our founding fathers risked their lives for: freedom and equality for all. I was raised to treat all people with respect until given a reason to do otherwise. Over the years, as I became more educated, I learned about the corruption, both overt and covert, in our government, from both Democrats and Republicans. I'm a student of the Founding Fathers, particularly Thomas Jefferson and James Madison, and I consider myself a Jeffersonian constitutionalist. My views align the closest with the Libertarian Party, although there are some issues with them in which I sharply disagree. This is going to be the first video in a series that's going to explain the United States Constitution and the 27 amendments that were added from 1791 to 1992. And the purpose of this is to help educate people so that they know about what our government can and cannot do, what can and cannot be done, and what's being done behind our backs. And as always, it's best to start with the beginning, so let's get going on the preamble. And I quote, "We the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and ensure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America." Those first three words are one of the most powerful statements in history. Matter of fact, I would say that they are the most powerful statement in American history. It was a simple declaration that the ultimate authority in government lies with the people. Our founding fathers were sick and tired of being taken advantage of by George III, who was King of Great Britain at the time. And at that time, he was no longer an absolute monarch, but he still possessed broad powers and great influence over members of the parliament. Power was to be left in the hands of the American people under this Constitution, so that if the government got out of control, then the people would have ways to get it back in line. Forming a more perfect union was one of the main goals that they wanted in this. Pardon me. As you can see, it's the top on the list of the goals mentioned. At that time, the Articles of Confederation were the government of the United States, and they were failing horribly. And when the Declaration of Independence was issued, our only national government was the Continental Congress. And there was really no framework to follow except that of the British Parliament. And in 1781, the Articles of Confederation were finally approved and went into effect. And Congress had legislative and executive authority. But the states kept the vast majority of their sovereignty. And as a result of that, it caused serious issues because states would get into quarrels with each other over everything, petty stuff, stupid stuff, and Congress was too weak to solve these issues. And the United States, I mean, it was in danger of breaking up, and most people knew that if the states didn't work together, they would never survive on their own at that time, and they would be back under the thumb of the British very soon. I mean, the British were just licking their chops waiting to get back over here. The establishment of justice was included because of many instances of unfair trials held in British courts against colonists. Instead of being tried in the colony by a jury of peers, colonists were shipped off to Britain to face government officials under control of the Crown, or they were simply judged by the court-appointed colonial governor, who, as you can imagine, was buddy-buddy with the king, and he was trying to keep the king in power as much as possible and punish any rebels. Domestic tranquility was a term simply used to declare the intentions of the founding fathers to have a peaceful society. We all want to live in a peaceful society, and domestic tranquility is something that all of us strive for, I would say. And so these guys were adamant about making the country better for all of us. To provide for the common defense. This was to ensure that, should the country find itself involved in another war, that there would be a more united front. For the most part, the Revolutionary War took place in the northern states. As you know, we know that everything started in Lexington and Concord in Massachusetts. There was a lot of battles in New York. There were a lot of battles in Pennsylvania. And there were some battles in the southern states, in Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina, and Virginia as well. Matter of fact, the war ended in Virginia. But for the most part, the concentration of the fighting was in the northern states, and each state was pretty much defending itself. Yeah, you know, the Continental Congress did create a Continental Army under the command of George Washington, as we all know. But like I said, those battles were really concentrated around, well, at the time New York was our capital. So it was really concentrated around in the capital area because the British were trying to take the capital and take us out. Promoting the general welfare. Now that's a goal that was really attached to the Domestic Tranquility Clause. The Founding Fathers wanted the people to enjoy their lives as much as possible. Now, the general welfare thing we will go into more great detail when we start talking about the powers of Congress later on in Article 1. And the final part, ensure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. That simply means that this document is to guarantee freedom now and forever for the people of our country. Nothing is to come in the way of that. Nothing. This is supposed to be the freest country in the world. We have liberty. We're free to live our lives as we so choose, so long as we do not prevent others from living their lives the same way. Now, this preamble, as part of the Constitution as it is, it does not in any way assign nor prohibit any powers to the federal government. It simply sets out the origin, scope, and purpose of the Constitution, and for all intents and purposes, it's a mission statement. No more, no less. No courts have cited the preamble as part of a legal decision, and so there's really no basis in legality for the preamble to be used as citing anything. Now, that is the conclusion of our video on the preamble to the United States Constitution. I welcome all comments, all questions. I welcome all civil debate. If all you want to do is talk trash and be negative, then we're going to have a problem here, and I'm probably going to end up having to remove a few of you. I don't wish to do that. I want everyone to ask civilly debated questions. I'm going to refrain from colorful adjectives. Those of you who know me know that I use them a lot because I'm a very expressive individual. But I understand how YouTube is cracking down on bad language and other stuff, which I think is ridiculous. It's part of what we're going to discuss in this document, as far as our freedoms and everything go, and what our government can do. And I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you all of you again at the next one. Peace to everybody.